Good afternoon, Wealth Our Way Nation. What is going on? It is your main man, Charles Tank Harris, the founder and chief visionary officer of the financial literacy platform Wealth Our Way, where our motto is wealth is not only for the wealthy. I welcome each and every one of you to episode 102, Ethereum as digital trust, smart contracts and NFT with my more than special guest, Devlin McConagly. Before I get started, though, you know, it's a customary trend here. We have to say thank you to each and every one of you who are joining with me live as we stream across the Wealth Our Way Facebook and YouTube platforms. We got to give that Wealth Our Way Nation salute to all of the nation members who watch this program pre-recorded overnight, over the weekend, wherever you can squeeze 15 minutes of financial literacy in. And then a heartfelt how are you to the good folks of the Life 101 platform who listen to the audio recording of this very here program. With that, I promised no rap from me today. This is the Devlin McConagly show. So Dev's going to get into the Ethereum and why we all need to listen and be aware of this new valuable technology. Dev, take it away.
Absolutely, man. So thanks again. This is kind of the part two from our conversation, the 101 episode. It was interesting. That's episode 101, Ethereum 101, classes in session.
So it worked out, right?
Yeah, it did work out. So what I wanted to hit on real quick was a couple of things that you probably hear about in the news. The big deal thing that really hit the market hard is this whole concept that so much energy is being used in Bitcoin mining, in Ethereum mining, and that from an environmental perspective, you know, is generating more energy utilization than whatever the buzzwords are. So I want to talk to you about two models. So what Ethereum works on now is something that's called proof of work. That's the mining concept. So in order for something to be verified on the chain, a machine has to do some work. And that does take computing power. That computing power takes energy. These are not inaccurate statements. They're conflated into something that is far more, headline driven than I think the reality of it. But it is very true. Compute power is right now what's making things work. But there's something coming, something called Ethereum 2.0. It's been in the works for a little over 2 years now, and the date has been pushed a couple of times, but we've hit some key milestones, and it does look like the release date is next year. Ethereum 2.0 moves Ethereum to something called a proof of stake model, which means that you're not using anywhere near the amount of energy, something like 1/10 to maybe 1/100th of the amount of energy to do the same amount of work. And the intent here is not only for an environmental positive impact, but the cost of these transactions right now are insane. Mm-hmm. You're trying to use the technology for anything that is less than $1,000 worth of a transaction, you're probably losing money.
Okay.
They call those gas fees. The gas fees are too high on the Ethereum network. So what's coming is Ethereum 2.0. Proof of stake means that you don't have to do the work anymore. You just have to prove you have such a vested interest in it being right that you saying it's right is enough.
Okay.
It's you're putting your money where your mouth is, technically speaking. And that gets into this idea of staking. So you hit on this, I think, on our last call. You know, what is this idea of staking? So staking funds are used really for two purposes. One, on a coin like Ethereum or a startup venture, there's this testing phase. You need to have real money in the platform. You need to allow it to actually do things. In order to do that, you need people to sponsor it, for lack of a better term. So staking is the incentivization of putting money into a coin or a token and holding it there for a period of time. The purpose is either to utilize it in processes, in real testing, or to help manage the volatility of new and startup ventures. Just like any other traditional business, having a bunch of money in the bank on your balance sheet makes investors more confident than price fluctuation, significant impact, or low cash flow. So if you have a new startup coin and you come out and you want to get some money in the platform, you want to say you have $100 million, $200, $500 million, you can offer people a incentive to keep their money with you and not sell it, and not trade your coin. It's a lot like a CD from the bank. The bank knows you're likely to be committed for 6 months, a year, 5-year CD. And for that, they're willing to pay you a certain rate. Rates in this space, in the crypto space, though, are many multiples of what a CD could be.
Right.
But there is risk. There's a lock-in period for many coins. Ethereum's is an unknown lock period. But the rate 5+%. Other coins 10, 20, 15, insane numbers, but risk. So
let me ask a question right there, not to hit you off the horse, but you compared it to a CD. I know mentally that we're just trying to use the concept of a CD, but I want to talk kind of in terms of risk. With the CD, the reason CDs pay such an infinitesimally small rate of return is because they are guaranteed to keep your net asset value of $1.
That's
which
right.
In 2008, for the first time in forever, we saw that net asset value go below $1. Different program. With that being said, though, the deposits in banks are backed up by a corporation called the Federal Deposit Insurance Company, which is backed up by the Fed. And although it's very poorly leveraged, I think there is $1 in the FDIC for every $18 it insures. Wow. But it's crazy what the leverage is. But people feel as though, hey, it's the government backing it. They don't realize that the FDIC isn't the government. It's a private company, but that company's backed by the government. Well, I say all that to say, when you look at staking and you're talking about the risk, and I'm going to let you finish. I just wanted to interject with this question. Could the risk be, or one of the risks be, that at the end of the stake period, my coin is worth significantly less than I paid for it when I bought it, and thus all of the interest I made isn't worth it to me because I made 8% in the course of a year. My coin lost 20%. I'm net 12% to the bad.
Absolutely. Okay. And the staking calculation is generally based on the value of the asset on a daily simple interest. So it's not necessarily how much you put in, it's how much what you have in is worth.
Got it.
Is happening, which is positive and negative. You can take any coin. I did it with Shiba. So meme coin, highly volatile, but I knew that I wasn't going to be selling a portion of it for a period of time. I intended to hold to see where it went. So why not pick up an extra couple of basis points if that's my intent?
Right.
Especially when you pair that with long-term capital gains. And I don't know if you've gotten into that in other episodes, but the idea that selling your profits into short-term capital gains
has them.
Yeah. So if there's a portion of your portfolio you're not going to sell no matter what in air quotes, but you intend to hold it for a long period of time, why not pick up an extra couple of points on that hold to make it even better?
I apologize.
It also is sort of a way to handcuff you a bit from reactionary selling. When the assets are so volatile. It makes you commit to your plan about how long you want to hold something for. You've effectively locked yourself in, come hell or high water.
Like that. I like that.
So that's, I'm going to move off of that. That's, stuff to look into. What I want to talk about more importantly is, I think I tagged this one as Ethereum being digital trust. So I said in the last call that Ethereum was digital oil. And that's the story out there. The storyline is the most comparative thing people understand. I like to think of Ethereum as digital trust or digital truth. The smart contract example that I told you, the distributed ledger example where you and I have a ledger and now everybody has the ledger. So there's no more trust required. I don't have to trust you to lend you money. I only have to trust the network. The idea of that, the next level of that is something called a smart contract. A smart contract, much like a legally binding traditional paper contract, has particular terms and triggers. It's simple if-then statement. If you make 12 payments, then the asset is yours. If you miss a payment, then your interest rate changes. That's called a smart contract. It's built on the Ethereum blockchain. It is a decentralized application. It's a little piece of code that runs. The trick there is that I no longer have to worry about trusting anybody I'm working with, any process to work the way it's supposed to work. It's laid out the way it's supposed to work. It's defined before the transaction starts, and it operates exactly according to that code. There's no room for error. There's no margin of gray area. There's no taking someone to court to prove that it did or didn't happen. These are all immutable records. They either did or didn't happen, and the contract speaks to that. So that's honestly, in all of this, it's one of the most important and seed-changing ideas, that data is immutable. It is what it is. You think about your data now in the cloud, whatever the case may be. You think about it that way. You think about your bank records as immutable. But if you went out tomorrow and checked your bank statement and it was different than you thought it was, what do? You pick up the phone and you call the bank, and they say, "No, you're wrong." And you say, "Well, I'm going to prove it." How are you going to prove it?
Right.
You're going to sue them. You're going to take them to court. You're going to, so all of these levers have to happen. On a smart contract and distributed ledger, it is what it is. There is no room for any of that. So that's what leads me into NFTs. So you touched on it, as the sort of the digital baseball card model. This idea that digital pictures of apes in 32-bit color are going for millions of dollars is insane. I agree, but the concept of NFTs is incredible. So my favorite use case for NFTs is in art and entertainment, in music and in art. And if you think the best example I heard of this was an interview with Jay-Z and Jack Dorsey talking about what they're doing over at their company, which recently bought Tidal. Thank you. So the idea is, think about art. Think about the most famous artists that you've ever heard of. Those can be impressionist artists, the Van Goghs and Renoirs and Rembrandts of the world, or more modern artists, your Basquiat's, etc. Think about even the most successful artists, what their art was worth at the time that they created it versus what their art is selling for on the secondary or tertiary market long after they're gone. Mm-hmm. The idea of an NFT is that you can prove through code that something is a one of one. It is unique. It is the only one that exists, or one of 100, or whatever the run is, right? So it cannot be falsified. That's the NFT is non-fungible token. You can't funge with it, right? It is what it is.
Right.
So I know that digital art and the things that are coming out as NFTs are questionable as quote unquote art. But if you think about NFT backed music and the idea that an artist can produce a song and release it 100 to 100 people, or with a smart contract, they can write into the code of that song that every time it's played, a 5% royalty comes back to the artist. If you think about the old days of radio play and ASCAP and the initial days of streaming, how you prove up what you're supposed to be getting off of every time that song was played.
Right.
Almost impossible.
Right.
With smart contracts and NFTs paired together, every time that file is accessed and open, that contract executes.
Right.
Someone's got to pay.
Yep.
So going back to the art for a second, the best example of this is, if you think about digital art as the same way you think about art, oil painting hanging on the wall, or this painting right here. Mm-hmm. No intrinsic value. Right. This is a piece of paper with ink on it.
Right.
It's not worth anything.
Right.
Unless someone says it's worth something and they want to possess this, in which case they could spend millions of dollars.
Right.
To possess this one because it's one. Now I can take a picture of that for free. I can go to the Louvre and take a picture of the Mona Lisa and have it on my phone and say I have the Mona Lisa, but nobody cares. Right. I still want to buy that one because that's the one. So you have to wrap your mind around the fact that this is already human behavior. People already pay a premium for exclusivity and rarity.
Exactly.
Now,
let me ask you a question as it pertains to, and maybe I'm off base, but I want you to help me with this, because my biggest problem with, I think a lot of people's biggest problem with NFTs and just the digital space at all, even when we were talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum, you can't touch it, is transferring it from the virtual world to the real world. And now that we have things like 3D printers, can an artist make a non-fungible token, and then you as the purchaser of it produce that art for your wall or that sculpture for your living room through a 3D printer because you have the license of the NFT you purchased?
Yeah, sure. I can also go to wherever the statue of David is, take about 7 pictures of it with my iPhone and print that on my digital printer too. It does that. Like that's always been a problem in art. In any art, there's copyright infringement. There is mechanism by which to do that. And if you make a song, I can go out and make the same song tomorrow and copy your lyrics. There's never been a way to protect that. The thing that's unique about NFTs is that digitally you can prove whether it is or is not authentic.
Got it.
It doesn't prevent somebody from bootlegging it and copying it and printing up their own, on their printer.
Yeah, so when we used to see the bootleg movies and we would literally hear the people in the movie theater laughing because the person was recording in the movie theater, that's how we knew it was fake. Now we'd actually see in the actual coding, this isn't written, it's not. Yeah. Everything that's real has this code in it and this doesn't.
Yeah, there's a very unique string of bytes and digits that prove it, that it's a hash. It's, unbreakable at this point. Someday it'll be broken. The next day it'll be bigger. That's the whole conversation, but that's encryption. That's the
crazy
crypto part of cryptocurrency comes from the word encryption. The idea that things can be digitized in such a way they cannot be messed with.
Understood.
So let me finish out on the art example. So if I am an aspiring artist, I spend my whole life painting pictures, I sell them in the park, they go for hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, whatever the case may be. I sell you a piece of art, you pay me $1,000 for it. The next day you turn around and you sell my piece of art in a gallery for $100,000. You made $99,000. I made $0 more. I still made the $1,000 I sold it to you for. Doesn't that seem disingenuous, right?
It seems unfair to the artist.
Right. And then you take that to the maxim, which is these pieces of art selling for hundreds of millions of dollars, where the artist, the artist's family, descendants, whatever the case may be, aren't profiting anything from that. And in many cases, artists die poor, right? So if you are the creative juice that creates an asset, digital or otherwise, you should be vested in every subsequent sale of that asset. And with a smart contract, you can do that. You can write into the exchange of the asset that 0.5 percentage point, 1%, whatever, of any sale of this item goes back to this account. That's right.
That's dope. As an entrepreneur, as a capitalist, I think that is dope. I recently, and I'm going to mess it up, and black people everywhere are going to kill me for this, who know the story. And it's funny because you're not a brother, but you probably know this more than most brothers do. Because you are a connoisseur of alcohols, fine liqueurs. The dude that's really behind the Jack Daniels family, Uncle Nevers. What do you know his name? Uncle.
Yeah, I don't know his name. I knew you were talking about that.
Okay, so I finally had. I don't even drink that strong in alcohol because it puts hair on my chest. But I had some when I was in Georgia the last time, and it's that very same concept that the Jack Daniels family acknowledges that this guy is the guy who really made the whiskey, but he was getting nothing. And of course, back in those times, we didn't have this type of technology, but imagine that happening right now. How many people go to work, make their bosses look good because they're doing this work that their boss is passing off as theirs? And if when you're typing it up and giving it to your boss, if there was something in the code that said, nope, this came from Devlin, this came from Tank, and as they're presenting it, they see you shine through, it's going to change the game in a lot of different ways.
Right. You're seeing in the entertainment space, you see in the space you're familiar with athletes, with NFTs. So it used to be as simple as athletes being able to make money off their likeness and their signature, signing balls, signing jerseys, endorsements, etc. Now the artist actually has control of their likeness, of videos and assets, etc., that they can then monetize as NFTs. The other interesting place that NFTs are being used for is finance and capital raise. So limited production runs, movies and shows are being made by exclusive NFT rights. So if you wanted to be a first 100 subscriber to sponsor a new movie, that in the old days used to be coughing up a check, getting your lawyer involved, etc. Now we put the NFTs online, they go for X number of dollars a piece. The contract says you own 0.05% stake in any future royalties and of this movie. And that's how you invest. Everything is already evident in the digital contract. You're not hiring attorneys to figure this stuff out anymore.
That's ridiculous. So before we close out and get people wrapped up for the weekend, I want to, and I'm going to make this disclaimer before we even get into the answer to the question. 15 Minutes of Finance and Wealth Our Way is here for education and entertainment purposes. I am not advising anyone to buy anything, any investment whatsoever. Let's just talk about some of the coins that you own, that I own, why we own them, get the people, because the whole education behind cryptocurrency is great. And of course, sometimes people may think it's boring, but learning sometimes is boring. But at the end of the day, everyone here wants to learn how to make money. And I know I've made a nice amount of money in 2021 with cryptocurrency, and I feel like I'm late to the game. I know you have as well. So let's talk to people about how we're making our decisions on certain coins. I'm going to talk about Chainlink because I really, really like Chainlink. And you can talk about whichever coin you want. So sure. You go first, and then I'll talk about Chainlink.
Yeah, sure. So first off, you're not late to the game. The game hasn't even started yet. Like, these are all still wonderful, brilliant ideas that aren't really happening in the marketplace to any great degree. So you're still super early. Anybody who's listening who feels like they missed the boat is still very much attached to the dock. Hop on. So what I'm going to talk about is Chainlink's one of my favorites, and I'm glad you're on that. So I'm going to talk about a coin called Matic. So everything I've talked about in Ethereum is 5-ish-year-old technology. There are now other platforms that can do everything I talked about and then some, cheaper, faster, better. Matic being one of them. There's also this idea of off-chain transactions, and they were pioneering in the space, where those very expensive things that have to happen on Ethereum can all happen off the chain and then be committed in these bulk mass transactions. So it's a $2-ish, $1.77, I think today, token that could very well be an alternative to Ethereum, and is gaining a lot of traction in the business community as a affordable version of similar tech. So I'm most of my investments are in Bitcoin and Ethereum, and Chainlink is my number 3. These other ones, but those coins are not going to go 10x.
Right.
You're not going to have that run up. They're great investments. They have strong value, but there are a couple of places where 10x is still possible with real, honest business models. There are places where 100x is possible, getting lucky. Yeah. But there's no reality behind that.
So I like Chainlink because the way it was explained to me, basically, and it goes right back to the heart of smart contracts and things of the interaction, the way right now it would be inefficient to try to trade. When I say trade, purchase in Bitcoin, purchase in Ethereum, the amount of energy that's expended to make the coin, the amount of time to solve and get rewarded the coin, you couldn't in any real and tangible way walk in and pay 1/10 of a Bitcoin for something, because the value is not even stable because Bitcoin's fluctuating. So it has to be attached to something. What is making Bitcoin a store of value and eventually a currency reserve is the fact that the contracts between sellers and buyers who will stake it as like gold staked the dollar at some point, are on networks, and Chainlink is the powering of those networks. It's a very Ethereum-ish type of technology in the fact that it's smart contract driven. There are a lot of financial companies that we've heard of, JP Morgan's, who was the other one that comes? Bank of America. These are companies that already use Chainlink technology. I find that the majority of the Fortune 100 companies that are using blockchain technology believe that Chainlink is the interpreter for the Ethereum and the other technologies. And that as a result of that, it's not going away. The analogy that was given in this white paper that I read on Chainlink was, the internet is now free. The internet is out here for us all to use. what would have, think about what you would have been able to benefit, going back to the NFT and future compensation, if you owned 1/1 millionth of the internet. And every time somebody logged on, you got a penny. It's just ridiculous. Chainlink is presenting to be that highway for our blockchain technology moving forward to a certain extent. And as a result, you can now own the technology as the internet 2.0, the interaction that's coming down the road. Chainlink will be that power of that. So, by all means, Devlin, once again, I know when it comes to technical, you got me dwarfed. If you want to add anything to that, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, the cool thing right now in Chainlink is that most of the information that's needed to fulfill a transaction, most of the information that you'd want to know, the weather in the state you're in, or the moving average of the dollar, pieces of data that you would need to fulfill a contract are not on the blockchain. They're out in the real world. So Chainlink's ethos is, or thesis is that through their mechanism called an oracle, it's an idea that your equity, you're backing the data that you're putting onto the blockchain with equity, with insurance, like an surety bond. Chainlink allows off-chain data to become on-chain data and be backed by a monetary policy. So that if the data is wrong, there's a recovery of funds that backs that bad data. So there are many, many projects now to oracleize off-chain data to make it on-chain data to feed, like you're saying, to feed these Bitcoin, Ethereum, others decision algorithms. You need to know everything in order to make a decision. And right now, everything isn't there. It's just so emergent that most data isn't on-chain. So there is a niche for a very, very long time for a provider like Chainlink to digitize information. There will come a day when everything's online, but we're not there yet.
There it is. You can't, basically fish in the digital ocean without a fishing rod, and Chainlink is your ride. So, guys and girls, I appreciate you being with me. The patience that you've shown over the last 3 days. We couldn't squeeze 15 minutes of finance into 15 minutes over the last 3 days because there was just too much information that Devlin and Chad had to share with you guys. I appreciate your patience. We are going to do a webinar. I see other people doing webinars charging obscene amounts of money to help people make money, and I hope that people are making money. But I've gotten commitments from Devlin, from Chad, for us to do some type of brain trust toward the end of this year, most likely the beginning of 2022 after the holidays, because we know Chad's a new uncle and Devlin's a new dad again. So, after Christmas, to put the babies to bed and do something that's going to help you guys profit. We'll take a deeper dive into different coins, take a deeper dive into the exchanges, because there's a lot to be known about the platforms you buy on. Devlin and I talk about that every day. We just bought something a little questionable the other day on a questionable platform. And we're like, well, we'll put a couple $100. If they steal our money, they steal it. But that's a real thing. Like, everybody's doors are open to take the money. We have to wait to see if they actually give it back. Yep. And that's where the Coinbase, which is why it's a publicly traded company, comes in, because you can trust when you buy your stuff on Coinbase that you're going to get your money back. And some of these other places, not so much. So we'll educate on that, we haven't even talked about digital wallets, how to get your money. I haven't talked about taxable gains and how to help yourself avoid certain things. Why we don't always have to use the dollar to trade our crypto in. You can buy with the dollar because that's what we have. And then if we see another currency that's more stable, almost every crypto trades across the globe in every other currency. So you could buy, $500 worth of Chainlink, watch it go up to $1,000, and instead of converting it back to $1,000, convert it to 472,000 yuan or whatever that would be. So we'll talk about that in the webinar and help you guys make some money. Devlin, I love you, man. I appreciate you coming on, brother. You make me look good. I thank you so very much. Wild Nation thanks you. Remember, everybody, have a great weekend. Enjoy your Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And please remember, wealth is not only for the wealthy. You guys take care.